Hey, this is Julian. We are going to take you through the settings of the Exacto grinder and show you how to clean it. If you take it out of the box, make sure to put the hopper on top. It will take up to 500 grams. There is a screw in the back you should tighten so it doesn't come off. And please place your plate in front of the grinder to carry any coffee grounds. Make sure while placing it, never carry your grinder on the fork here. Please always put your fingers and your hand underneath the grinder to place it. Exacto is a grind by weight model, which means you set the dosage you want to have in your portafilter. That is done by a scale here in the front of the grinder, and it will just stop the grinder after reaching the set amount. So it comes with 64 millimeter burrs. We have a stepless adjustment of the grind size. We have a nice touch display to set your dosages and check which dosage you want to adjust. You see the grams, which is programmed to each button. You can access the settings. You have the option to see what type of grind size it is. Your grinder will be set to 90 by default. For demonstration purposes, we are using 0. If you go finer, for example, or coarser, it will change. You have a pulse button to get rid of some coffee inside or to increase your dosage, for example. And you have a button for the portafilter detection. So you can select the different dosages, and by hitting the number, you can increase or decrease your dosage. So let's stick for 18.5 for the first beginning. If you want to work faster, like in an environment of a professional shop, for example, it's easy to just go from grams to seconds. But we stay with grams now. Here you have the portafilter detection. This is going to be shown later in our display, but you can choose a certain weight of a portafilter to activate a certain dosage. For example, I like to use the single spout as a single espresso and the double spout as a double espresso. Therefore, I would need to change the amount of coffee I'm using, but I could train my grinder to recognize the single and the double one and select the dosage automatically. Therefore, I just place my portafilter. I can easily fix it with that screw. I put it in, and now you see that there is a certain weight on button 1, for example, so it recognized. And I could do the same for button 2, for example. So now I see that there is a programming for button 1 and button 2, and it will select the dosage automatically. So by checking your normal operation screen, you see that there is a portafilter icon on the right hand side. You can deactivate it by holding it down, so you see it's gray. That means it will not recognize any portafilter. You would need to start your grinding by pushing the button itself. So the next menu item is showing you the counter of coffees you did. You can easily reset it. If there would be numbers, it would be reset to 0. So you can track how many coffees you got out of one bag of coffee, for example. And there is a total counter which will show you how many portions of coffee the grinder did all time. This is not resettable, so you can track when to exchange your burrs inside, for example. The next item is the coffee counter, so you can check how many coffee kgs went through the grinder. This is resettable. If you, for example, change to a different type of coffee, it's easy to use that one. And the last one is the scale calibration, which you can see it's empty, so we will reset it to 0. And then there is the 0 setting of our grinding burrs. So this will be for me in the early stage just a reminder where to start from. And you see earlier it was set to 0.2 and now it's 0.0, which means that's the point where I'm starting from. If I set my espresso itself, I can see if I need to go coarser or finer if I'm starting with 0. Now we are setting up the grinder for a dose of 18.5 grams. Therefore, I selected a basket which is capable of doing so, our double basket, for example. And before starting, I would always suggest to take out some coffee. Therefore, I deactivated the recognition to check if the grind size is too fine or too coarse. As you can see here, nothing suspicious, but if I take my fingers and the grind between it, I can feel it's a little sharp, which is a sign of maybe being a little too coarse. That's why I would directly change the grind a little to something finer and take out some more. So that would have been the amount of coffee which was in between the burrs. And the more I take out, the more it is the real setting I did. Therefore I check it again. It's a little less. So that would be for me a starting point for the setting of 18.5 grams. And let's see how it comes out of the espresso machine. So we are aiming for 18.5 grams of coffee in our portafilter. And our extraction should be about 42 grams in the cup. So let's see how this works out. So I'm using my scale underneath to check the very first extraction. I can program. And now I'm checking my scale to reach 42 grams. And I would prefer something above 25, maybe 27, 28 grams. But for me, this looks quite fast. It looks a little, under extracted, so I'll try to give it another shot. So since the espresso shot was not working out perfectly, we are going to adjust the grind more fine. So from minus 0.5, I am going to adjust for minus 10, and then I will give it another try. But don't forget to purge out some of the coffee because there is still some beans in between the burrs and some ground coffee at the end of the grinding chamber that we need to get rid of. Otherwise, we would have a combination of grinds. Okay, yeah, this feels finer. Let's see how it comes out. So let's see how the changes impacting the extraction time. Of course, we are still aiming for about 42, 43 grams. Yes, that looks slowed down to me. Nice. That looks quite promising. Okay, this looks to me very nice. I'll give it a try. I get some very nice flavors out of it. And from that point on, I would start playing around with maybe the recipe or the grinding. But the adjustment is up to your taste. So try some new recipes and enjoy some good coffees. So now we are going to take care of cleaning our grinder. Therefore, you close the lid of the hopper and you remove all the beans which are inside the grinding chamber. I can just place it here and okay, so I took out all the beans and now I can continue removing the hopper. Okay, so you take your Allen wrench, untighten the security screw, turn off the grinder and remove the bean hopper. To clean the bean hopper, you simply take out the coffee bag. You put your coffee beans in here by opening the lid. Then we take our bean hopper, put it back in, take our Allen wrench, tighten it, open the lid, open the bean hopper itself, and then we take our cleaner and we put it directly into our grinder. We take some of our coffee beans and then we'll repeat the process of manual grinding and grind out some coffee. Now you can see that there is some leftovers of the cleaner also inside our coffee. So you repeat this until there is no cleaner inside anymore. So there is no cleaner inside anymore in my coffee grounds. That's how I cleaned the grinding chamber. So next step is to turn off your grinder. And then you have the chute. You can easily remove it while holding the lid up and taking it out. And you can have a closer look. This is pretty clean now. But since this is stainless steel, you can basically do everything you want with it. Just give it a good dry after you cleaned it with water, for example. And then you can easily put it back in to your chute, lift it up, and make sure the lid is holding it tightly. Okay, so last step is cleaning the bean hopper. As you can see, there is leftovers of the cleaner and some beans inside. So what we do is make sure you close it and then to remove it. To remove it, you take your Allen wrench again, untighten the screw in the back, and you can easily lift it out. Make sure not to put it in the dishwasher. So just use warm water, little soap, and give it a good dry afterwards. So when everything is clean, you just take it and put it back together. Also the bean hopper. And after you put in the bean hopper, make sure to tighten the security screw again. Open the lid, put in your beans, turn on your grinder, and you're good to go to enjoy some new coffees.